At my son's baptism, my in-laws changed the program without telling me. They replaced the godparents with their friends and said, "We've made better choices." When I protested, my husband said, "It's not worth the drama." So I walked up to the altar, took the mic, and read the names I had legally filed, then walked out with my son before they could even finish the prayer. This happened 6 months ago in Charleston, South Carolina. Our son, Jonah, had just turned 5 months old. My husband Matt and I had planned his baptism at his family's church, some old brick Presbyterian place that smells like dust and memories. I didn't grow up religious, but I didn't care where it happened. What mattered to me was the moment, the people, and honoring those who truly showed up for us. Matt and I had agreed early on that the godparents would be my brother, Evan, and my best friend of over a decade, Tara. They were family. They earned it. Evan was the first to hold Jonah after the nurses brought him to me. Tara slept on our couch for 3 days when I couldn't walk straight after the C-section. They were at my house more than Matt was, and that's not an exaggeration. Matt had started staying late at work or at his parents' house a lot after Jonah was born. It got to the point where I stopped asking where he was. When I did ask, he said things like, "My mom's helping me figure some stuff out." That meant I was the one figuring out diapers and cluster feedings while he vented to Diane. His mom had a problem with me from the start. Said I was free-spirited. Her words. Said I didn't grow up with the right morals. That my family didn't come from faith. I let it slide more than I should have. I bit my tongue when she looked me up and down at our wedding. I let it go when she insisted on planning my baby shower without asking me anything. I gave her room to be a grandma. But this was war. The night before the baptism, I noticed Matt acting strange. Pacing. Checking his phone. Not making eye contact. Asked if everything was okay, and he just said, "It's gonna be fine. Just don't overthink tomorrow." That was his answer to everything lately. I should have pressed him harder. The next morning, we dressed Jonah in the white cotton gown that had been in my family since the 1960s. Evan had worn it. I had too. We were proud of it. We arrived at the church 20 minutes early. The building was already half full, mostly Matt's extended family and some church members. I looked around for Tara and Evan and waved when I saw them sit together near the front. Tara was beaming. Evan gave me a thumbs up. I stepped toward the table at the front to check the programs, and that's when my stomach dropped. The programs didn't say Tara Miles or Evan Blake. They said Richard and Martha Hanley. I had no idea who the hell Richard and Martha were. I turned to Matt and asked, "What is this?" He looked like I had just caught him stealing. "Can we not do this right now?" he muttered. "Matt, those aren't the names." He sighed and rubbed his face like I was the problem. "My mom thought it would be better this way." "Your mom? What?" She said Richard and Martha are more in line with the church. I stared at him, and he wouldn't even look back. "Are you telling me your mother picked new godparents and didn't tell me? And you went along with it? They're just names. It's not worth the drama." That was it. That was the exact moment I felt something in me snap. I walked straight to Diane. She was talking to some of her church friends near the front pew. "Diane," I said, already shaking. "What happened to the godparents we agreed on?" She didn't even flinch. "We made better choices," she said, like she was talking about picking a better wine. "You'll understand one day." "Better choices?" I repeated. "Are you out of your mind? You're young. You don't see what's important yet. Godparents aren't just about who babysat during nap time. It's about spiritual guidance." "They're about who shows the hell up," I hissed. She narrowed her eyes. "Don't cause a scene. You're in God's house." "Then maybe act like it," I said. Matt stepped in then. "We're starting soon. Please, let's just get through it." I looked at him like I didn't know him. "You let your mother rewrite our son's baptism like I don't exist. You're overreacting." I said nothing. I walked back to the pew, lifted Jonah into my arms, and pulled the folded baptismal document from my purse, the one I had submitted to the church office 2 weeks ago. I had filed it myself, printed it, signed it, got the church clerk's signature. I took a deep breath, walked up to the altar just as the priest was about to speak, and said, "Excuse me." Everyone turned. I need to make a correction. My voice was shaking, but I didn't stop. I walked up, holding Jonah, and faced the congregation. The godparents of Jonah Blake are Tara Miles and Evan Blake. That's what I filed. That's what the church accepted. And that is the truth. Any other names are not only incorrect, they were inserted without my knowledge or consent. People looked around, whispering. Diane stood up in the second pew, face flushed red. This is not the time. I turned toward her and said, "No. The time was when you chose to erase the people who actually raised my son when your son didn't bother." The silence was sharp. I turned to the priest. "We're done here. Come on," I said to Tara and Evan. They stood and followed me without hesitation. Matt didn't follow. He just stood there, frozen. We walked out of that church before they even began the prayer. I didn't answer calls for 2 weeks. The fallout started before I even made it home. I got in the car with Tara in the passenger seat and Evan following behind us in his. Jonah was asleep in his carrier, completely unaware that his family had just exploded around him. Tara kept saying, "I still can't believe they did that to you." To him. I couldn't talk. My hands were shaking too bad. I just nodded and kept my eyes on the road. When I pulled into our driveway, Matt's car was already there. He must have slipped out right after we left the church. He was sitting on the front steps when I walked up. I didn't say a word. "Look," he said, standing up. "We need to talk." "No," I said. "You need to listen." He raised his hands like he was tired of being yelled at. "You embarrass my family." I stopped right there, halfway up the walkway. "Your family? What about me? What about our son? You took him out of the church before the blessing. You humiliated my mom." I corrected a lie. "You both tried to erase the people who have been there for Jonah since day one." He shook his head like he was the victim here. "You made a scene." "No," I said slowly. "I made a point." Tara came up behind me and said, "We'll give you some space." She hugged me, kissed Jonah on the head, and walked back to her car. Evan gave me a long look, the kind that says I've got your back no matter what. When I walked into the house, Matt followed me like a guilty shadow. We sat across from each other in silence for a few seconds. Then I said, "Did you change the legal documents at the church?" He blinked. "No. I didn't touch that. I didn't even know you filed them." "So, you let your mom print fake programs and stand there like it was the truth?" He didn't answer. That was all I needed to know. For the next week, I stayed in the guest room with Jonah. Matt kept trying to act like things were normal. Coming home from work, asking if I wanted to watch TV, trying to hold Jonah like nothing had happened. I kept saying no. Then the real twist came. I got a call from the church secretary. She sounded hesitant. "I don't know how to say this," she said, "but I need to tell you something. The original baptism form you submitted, it went missing the day after you brought it in." I was stunned. "What do you mean?" "I filed it in the cabinet. I remember clearly. But 2 days later, it was gone." "We never throw those out." I think someone took it. Did anyone else have access to the office?" She was quiet for a second. "Only the regular staff. And Diane helps with church records sometimes. She volunteers." That was it. That was the final piece. Diane stole the document. And Matt? He had to know. Maybe he didn't take it himself, but he was in on it. That's why he looked so guilty that day. They didn't just try to humiliate me, they planned it. I hung up the phone, packed Jonah's bag, and texted Tara, "Can we stay with you for a few days?" She replied in seconds. Already made up the guest room. When Matt came home that night, I was waiting by the door with my bags packed. "What is this?" he asked. "This is the part where I stop letting you and your mother treat me like I don't matter." He looked down at Jonah in his carrier. "You're taking him away from me?" "No. You let him be taken from the people who love him." "I'm just walking him back." I didn't let him speak after that. Tara's house became a safe zone. Quiet, simple, warm. She lived in an old craftsman-style place near Avondale with a fenced-in yard and creaky wood floors that made me feel like someone cared. Jonah slept better there than he had in weeks. I spent the first night staring at the ceiling, wondering how far back the betrayal went. Was this always who Matt was? Or had he been changing in front of me so slowly that I didn't notice until it was too late? The second day we were there, Evan showed up with coffee and a folder. "You're not gonna believe this," he said, dropping it on the table. "What is it?" "I've been digging.
Talking to people.
Checking church records. Turns out Richard and Martha Hanley, the new godparents, they've known your in-laws for decades. Business partners. Diane's trying to get a seat on the board at their charity foundation. What does that have to do with Jonah? It's a power move. Diane wanted to give her friends something public. A gesture. Tying your kid's name to theirs gives her leverage. So my son's baptism was just a networking stunt. Exactly. I felt sick. I was mad before, but now it was deeper than anger. It was disgust. Diane wasn't just controlling. She was using Jonah like a pawn. I called Matt that night. I didn't even bother being nice. "You let your mom hijack our son's baptism for her career."
What?
That's not what happened. Don't lie to me. I know about the Hanleys. I know about the board seat. He went quiet. "You were willing to make our son part of some PR campaign, just to keep your mom happy. And you didn't even have the balls to tell me." He said nothing for a long time. Then finally he muttered, "You're blowing this out of proportion." That was the last time I called him. The next day I got served a letter from a law firm addressed to me at Tara's place. Petition for emergency custody review. Matt had filed for temporary custody of Jonah, claiming I removed the child from his primary residence without consent and was acting erratically in a way that may endanger the child's stability. I sat on the couch staring at that letter for 10 full minutes before I moved. Tara came in from the kitchen, saw my face, and took it from me. "That coward," she whispered. He wasn't just letting his mom run the show, he was willing to take me to court over it. That's when I realized this was bigger than revenge. Diane wanted control over Jonah. Matt wanted peace at any cost. And I was the only one standing between them and my son. So I made a call. Not to a lawyer, not yet. First, I called someone Diane didn't think I knew. Susan, one of the women from the church committee. She liked me. Always had. She used to tell me, "You're tougher than you look." I told her what happened. She was silent at first. Then she said, "Meet me tomorrow. I'll show you something you need to see." I met her in the back room of a tiny cafe off King Street. She pulled out a binder full of volunteer sign-in sheets, committee meeting notes, emails. She pointed to a section.
"Here.
Diane accessed the church office file cabinet 2 days after your submission. It's written here." I felt a chill go through me. Then she handed me something else. A copy of the original godparent filing I had submitted. She thought she shredded everything, Susan said. But I keep digital backups. It wasn't just proof. It was evidence. Now I had something to fight back with, and I planned to use it. I sat in the cafe for a long time after Susan left, holding that copy of the original godparent filing like it was a weapon. Because it was. I wasn't just going to use it to win custody, I was going to use it to tear down every fake thing Diane had built. I wasn't just hurt anymore. I was done letting people like her walk over people like me. The next day, I walked into a lawyer's office downtown, dropped the folder on his desk, and said, "I need to respond to this emergency custody petition. And I need to go further." He flipped through the pages, raised his eyebrows, and said, "They screwed with the church documents?" I nodded. They tried to erase my son's godparents to score points with some charity. They forged a church program, lied to the congregation, stole official paperwork. He leaned back in his chair. "This isn't just custody. This is fraud. Possibly even defamation if they're painting you as unstable. I want to file everything I can. Full custody. Injunction against further contact. And I want the court to know exactly who they're dealing with." We filed that afternoon. It didn't take long. Diane's name was on the volunteer records. The secretary confirmed she was alone in the office. The church even gave a written statement. The Hanleys backed out of any comment entirely, clearly not wanting their names dragged through it. I didn't stop there. I sent a copy of the legal godparent form and a letter detailing what had happened to every single person who had attended that baptism. I sent it with a photo of Jonah, smiling in his crib, and a note that read, "This is the child you all watched get turned into a stage prop. These are the people who should have stood by his side. Not for social points, not for status, but because they loved him. Don't let his name be used in someone else's lie." Then the court hearing came. Matt sat across from me with Diane on his left. She looked smug, like always, like nothing ever touched her. But when my lawyer laid out the timeline, showed the volunteer logs, the deleted file notice, and finally the original godparent form, her face cracked. Then I stood up. "I'm not perfect," I told the judge. I walked out of that church because I was pushed into a corner. Because I was watching the people who actually loved my child be erased like they didn't matter.
I didn't cause drama.
I responded to betrayal. I looked right at Matt, and my husband stood there and let it happen, because peace with his mother mattered more to him than protecting me or our son. The judge didn't even hesitate. Full custody awarded to me. Matt was given supervised visitation until he could show a stable co-parenting plan without Diane's influence. An injunction was placed against Diane, no contact with Jonah unless I approved it, which I wouldn't. Outside the courtroom, Matt followed me down the steps. "Why'd you go this far?" he asked, his voice small. I turned around. "Because I gave you every chance to stand up for me, and you never did. You picked your mother every time.
And now?
You get to live with that." He looked like he wanted to say something else, but I walked away. It's been 4 months now. Tara and Evan are officially Jonah's godparents, recognized by both the church and the state. They come over every week. Tara helps with bedtime. Evan built Jonah a swing set in the backyard. They're not perfect. Neither am I. But we show up. Matt still gets his short visits. We meet at a public center. He asks about Jonah's milestones, his teeth, his new words. I answer politely. But I keep my guard up. He lost the right to anything more. As for Diane, she called once. Left a voicemail. "I just want to talk." I never meant for it to go that far. I never called her back. She made her choices.
So did I.
And I'll never apologize for putting my son first, even if I had to tear the whole damn altar down to do it.